pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to my channel yet again. So now I feel like that another milestone challenge is in effect. Yeah. There was another one that I just uploaded, which was centered on 40,000 liked videos, and in that one I pretty much just came around to find a random mystery box that someone made, and I opened it up and found a bunch of random objects inside. But for this milestone challenge here, out of the trio that I have set for September 20th, I feel like that I could probably do something a little bit different. Maybe something that doesn't really involve as crazy as, well, creating some weird cocktail or having some strange set of dance moves or something of the sort like that. No, instead, I'm probably just going to mellow out for some time. I'll probably get back into the crazies some other time. But today, with this milestone challenge, out of the three that I have set, I might as well go ahead and make this official. I'm probably going to make as much of an attempt to recount certain events that I've had over the course of my entire lifetime. And of course, it can pretty much range from the time I was born to the time that is today, September 20th, 2020. So, more than 21 years of life I've spent out, and you probably will be asking me, what exactly is the milestone that I'm inheriting with this challenge? Well, yeah, the video count just keeps piling up over and over again. And this is somewhat of a belated thing out there because I certainly did come across 2,750 plus videos just after August 20th. So of course that probably would make sense why it didn't get featured into that last trio. It probably would have become some sort of a quadrilogy? I'm not certain, but anyways, that's not really the point here. The point is that, well, with a new milestone that I've set in stone, with 2,750 plus videos, I'm going to see if I can recount 9 different events. And of course, they can range from birth to the present. So 21 years and a few months in motion. So of course, let's just see if I can go for it. Well, so far I can actually recount at least 3 different ones right now, so I might as well get to those first. The first one I got here was in spring of 2014, so some time ago. I certainly remember it like it happened only a few months back. I mean, that's just how fast time flies, and even better than that, my memory is just that good. It's that capable of tracking down every detail to the last moment of it. Well, anyways, spring of 2014, what I was doing was I had my own cinematography class at North Middle School during that time. And of course I had a large group of people of which that I was looking at different projects that they were pulling off, but one of the main things that we did was stop motion animation. And of course, this wasn't the first time that I've actually pulled off stop motion related projects. I've actually done a few of them, even though they're not up on YouTube. And that's certainly because, well, for some odd reason I just don't have access to the files that hold all this old footage of mine. Even though it is my footage that I have from as far back as 2005, 2006, 2007, I just don't have access to it. Apparently I need administrator's clearance to be able to get through, just to see it. And even then, I'm just not certain about it. But yeah, that pretty much is how far stop motion related projects go back. So you can pretty much say that I was kind of on level with how Aardman Pictures pulls off their stop motion, or claymation in a way. That's actually what we were doing at the time, spring 2014. We were doing a little claymation, and of course I did myself my very own It was a couple minutes in length in spring 2014, and it was pretty exciting overall. The project itself was pretty fun to watch. I mean, I was not even 15, so of course it did make sense that, well, my skills would pretty much get better over time. That's pretty much what spring of 2014 was like for me. I pretty much had my own little cinematography course. And that, of course, was how I was able to really get down and serious with my overall cinematography skills as of today. But looking back at it, I probably could have done a lot more professional things with it. Well, anyways, I'm probably going to move on to a new memory now because, after all, there's only so many of them that I could potentially put together here to share with everybody here. So I'm just going to move on over to a little memory from even further back. December of 2000. Yeah, that's right. I was more than a year old then, but you know what? This is something that I can recount pretty well, actually. I mean, my memory is just that concrete when it comes to relapsing certain memories that are so far back that no normal person could remember them likewise. But the way I see it, it's just gravy for me. Well, anyways, December of 2000 was a time where, wow, there really isn't much to say, but I had a giant plushie called Junior. And I played around with it. My parents were there. Some of my cousins and my other relatives were all there. December 2000 was just one of those times where we could pretty much get together and have a happy, joyful life with one another as it is. But that's pretty much what that is. So, enough said. So, that's 2 out of 9. Let's see if I can make it even bigger. So, memory number 3, of course, would be the time in summer of 2006. That same old time where my Twitter account was first created. That's right. KFN 1.0 on Twitter was first created in August 2006. And that same exact summer was actually chock full of quite a few memories of mine. So there were quite a few that I could probably share, but I'm mainly going to go with not just the reference back to when my Twitter account was created in August 2006, but also during that same exact summer of that same exact year where I pretty much experienced one of the worst things that could have ever happened to me. An enormous body burn. That's right. Apparently, the weather around that time got so bad that, well, 2nd or 3rd degree burns, depending on the surface that the skin is touching, were common. And it got really bad. I mean, even I was not fortunate enough to make it out of there alive. I mean, I was just that, well, traumatized by it. Mostly physically. Mentally, I'm not really traumatized by it because I still do go outside even in the most destructive of heat. Because why not? But summer 2006 was something that really changed me overall. It was a lot different than usual. Because what basically happened was a nice, fun day out in the sun turned out to be a pretty tragic time for me. Because apparently, about 10% of my entire body had been covered in 2nd and even 3rd degree burns after being exposed to extreme levels of UV and radioactive heat. The sun was just that destructive to one's body. And of course, I was just one of those unfortunate victims of that time that actually got injured by the sun. So of course I had to go to the doctor and get that checked out. Had to go to the hospital as well for some time. Had to get a lot of medications and a lot of different ways to pretty much mend to the extreme levels of burns that I pretty much had. Of course, the 3rd degree burns, they weren't really as bad as we probably thought they were going to be, but the skin definitely did have some charred parts to it. 3rd degree burns are just that awful. So, moving on. So here comes memory number 4, which of course is something that I still do remember very well. It's not quite as distinctive as many of the others that I've talked about already. Well, this one is in spring of 2010, so kind of in the middle of the road between the summer of 2006 and spring of 2014. But anyways, April of 2010 was a time where, well, it was yet another time where we went down to Des Moines, Iowa, because that's actually where a large part of the family currently lives, in Des Moines, Iowa. Some of the others pretty much lived in states like California, Colorado, Arkansas, and Carolina. But Iowa, of course, was one of the main havens that the family would reside in. Wisconsin was also a pretty big one. So the Midwest is, in general, a really big spot where the family is currently at, but from my perspective, spring 2010 was probably a very important time because it was quite honestly one of the last times I ever got to see a great grandparent of mine, Myron Glover. And if that's not bad enough, that same exact year, much later than that though, October 2010 was a time where Myron Grover succumbed to a combination of old age and a couple other complications resulting from increased tobacco smoking. Age 87. But of course, spring 2010 was a very, very, very important time. Because it was not only the fact that, well, I was still in 4th grade, going on 5th grade, and there was so much out there for me to learn. The whole entire world had lots to offer. But, of course, April 2010 really wasn't as big of a time for me because of that. It was mainly because of that trip to Iowa, because, well, it was not only the fact that it was one of the only times that I ever got to see Myron Grover ever again before finally dying. But of course, it was also a big time where we pretty much had ourselves a lot of fun in many ways. We got to enjoy ourselves in ways we never could before, including, well, jumping on an old trampoline, of course. There's actually been a lot that we've vlogged about during that time, and there were even a few of those videos that I uploaded to YouTube during that time. Yeah. I've been uploading for 12 years, so I don't need the evidence for that. But I will say for sure that, well, aside from that, those kind of times were just really, really big game changers. They were things I never thought were possible. They were things that I really, really had in mind. There was a whole big world ahead of me. And as soon as I got out of 4th grade during that summer of 2010, it was a big deal for me. Because as I would grow up, 5th grade, and throughout all of my middle school and high school years, that whole entire time was just a really big step in the direction that I was hoping to go at some point. I was certainly going to have a lot when it came to, well, finding myself a potential career and a good pathway. Because even though Kaiju Force Neo was a name that I've had around with me, mentally for the most part, 5 years at the time, spring 2010 was a big deal. Because 10 years later, here we are now. Kaiju Force Neo is huge. Much bigger than it used to be. And I pretty much could not have done it without graduating all 3 basic levels of school itself, 3 basic levels of education, if you will, and also finding myself the right pathway when it came time to find out who I am going to be. And who I am now? I'm a filmmaker, an independent business operator, and of course, a collaboration worker. Pretty much going with whatever kind of career I could ever possibly seek out. Well, you know what? About halfway there yet. So 5 other memories I pretty much have are kind of old in a way, but I will say they are still pretty darn enjoyable. I probably could talk about the memories I've had during 9/11, but that would be a little too easy. And besides, how could we ever forget something like that? 2,996 lives taken over a span of more than 2 hours. Whereas we're dealing with a current pandemic right now, apparently it took about 8 to 9 months just to have 1 million people dead. And I'm not really going to go any further on that part because I worry too much about political topics. How could anyone talk about them publicly? I guess I'll never find out for myself. Well, anyways, 5 other memories I pretty much have, well, I already spent too much time just discussing them in full, so I'm just going to label them all out. Memory number 5. It's not really that distinctive, but of course it happened a couple years ago. Yeah, that's right. It was actually the time that I graduated high school. It was over 2 years ago, so to speak, but my name, my full name, that is, was just announced to the entire school incorrectly. I could never forget about a time like that, and I could never make any of this stuff up, even if I tried my best. So, I can't stress that enough. My full name, right then and there, all 3 of them. My full name is J. Maddox Nowak. But no, not to them. I can't stress that enough. Well, that's memory number 5 there, just so you'd probably know. And memory number 6 is, well, the whole entire year of 2015. So, let me just explain really quickly, by the way, that the years of 2013 all the way through to around summer of 2016, those were the years that I had pretty much been inflicted with a somewhat rare speech-related condition known as foreign accent syndrome, and the entire year of 2015 was just that invigorating for me because on top of the fact that frax was something that I couldn't help myself with, I mean, I wasn't voluntarily trying to pretty much cause pain to anyone out there who actually does speak in that same exact dialect of UK, if you will. But of course, having a UK accent was just an embarrassment to me. I mean, you could look at it any way possible, but I know the truth. It was foreign accent syndrome due to a bit of a jaw injury that I had while toboggan racing. Yeah. Early 2013 was just that. At the same time that the Kaiju Force Neo YouTube channel Blackout event was starting to take place, early 2013 was also a time where I had gotten myself a bit of a jaw injury after I flew off of a hillside while toboggan racing. I was kind of going belly first, and then after I got a jump like several feet high, I landed, hit my jaw, smacked up on the ground really hard, and I pretty much got that checked out by a doctor. But then eventually is when, after it healed, my dialect changed. It took me quite a while just to recover from it. And so, as of summer 2016, I can clarify that this voice that you're hearing right now is legitimate. It's the one that I've had all my life. Of course, dialect sometimes changes within some people due to, well, them fully maturing, but I'm one of those that just has a naturally occurring dialect like this. So that UK accent that you've been hearing me speak out loud from 2013 to 2016, it was not my actual voice this whole entire time. So Ethan Millard of Menominee Falls High School and everyone else who has mocked me during that time because of foreign accent syndrome that I had, and I'm not at all going to replicate it because I refuse to be a part of that time right there. I really don't want to go back to such events like those. Please take me seriously. This is my real voice. I recovered fully from that condition. It took me years, but I'm finally rid of that. So, End of story. So anyways, memories 7, 8, and 9 that I can recount right now would pretty much include the Memorial Day of 2011, which was another time where we had it recorded on camera. And I actually did upload this to YouTube as well. At the same time that I've uploaded quite a lot of things to YouTube actually, throughout 2008 to around 2012 and 2013, especially before the blackout period took place, thanks to that so-called intervention that had to be made. Well, anyways, this was basically, I wasn't really a part of it, but basically my younger sibling Luke Nowak, yeah, as well as Shane and Jesse Puring. They were out there with a slip and slide that we bought recently, and of course, I had already gone out and played with it for some time, and I even sliced my calf open because of that. I guess that's another memory I could put it all together. So anyways, Memorial Day 2011 was a time where Shane, Jesse, and Luke were all playing on the slip and slide, and later on in August of 2011 was the time where I played on the slip and slide, and I went down so fast at one point that I sliced my calf open and I was bleeding. Really badly, actually. I mean, I had to grab a huge load of bandages, gauze wrap, and some cotton balls, pretty much, just to cauterize and stop the bleeding. I mean, that's 2 memories down, so... Anyways, I still got one more left. And what could I possibly choose? Oh, I know. How about the time when I painted this house? That's right. I pretty much helped paint this house. So any ways that you can see this house from the outside, which isn't that nice sort of banana sort of color, then well, you'd pretty much know. I was a really big part of it though, as a matter of fact. Even to this day, I could still be known for painting entire houses from the outside or the inside. And I have actually done it both ways, especially in the last 5 years. But late 2008 was pretty much a time when we decided to paint this entire house to get rid of that strange old ugly sort of natural wood color, because it was starting to deteriorate naturally because of how moist the climate was getting, and more importantly how exposed it was to some elements out there like heat and cold and otherwise. So that's why we gave it a fresh new coat of paint, in a new scheme, by the way. So a nice banana yellow is pretty much how we painted it. And because I was able to do such a big portion of it, I probably deserve a lot of the credit. So of course, you could probably look back at it, and I don't really have much evidence about it, but I do know that I helped paint this house pretty well. I've also painted some parts on the inside as well, but not a whole lot. Well, anyways, that right there is 9 specific memories that I have all put together, specifically about 9 different events that happened from my birthday to the present day. June 4th, 1999 to September 20th, 2020. So that right there is just a big segment of what you'd probably need to know about me in general. Well, anyways, this is just number 2 out of 3. But I'm going to get to number 3 pretty soon. But until then, if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.